40 votes. That's all it took. And somehow Bill Belichick didn't get them. Let that sink in, because what happened next shook the NFL world in a way nobody saw coming. A Hall of Fame legend went nuclear, names were called, reputations were questioned, and suddenly the most sacred institution in football had a credibility problem nobody wanted to talk about. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Jimmy Johnson didn't just disagree with the decision. He felt betrayed by it, why this wasn't about Spygate or politics or personality, and why this moment may permanently change how the Hall of Fame is viewed by players, coaches, and fans alike. Because when Bill Belichick was left out of the 2026 Pro Football Hall of Fame class, it wasn't just a snub. It was an earthquake. On Tuesday, the announcement dropped quietly. No dramatic music. No breaking news banner screaming controversy. Just a cold line of information that felt almost impossible to believe. Former New England Patriots head coach Bill Belichick had failed to reach the required 40-vote threshold for induction. Not delayed for a procedural reason. Not pushed back because of eligibility confusion. He simply didn't get enough votes. 6 Super Bowls as a head coach. 9 total rings. 2 decades of dominance. A defensive mastermind who reshaped modern football. And still, not enough. At first, many fans assumed there had to be a mistake. Maybe his name was miscounted. Maybe this was some kind of misunderstanding. But as hours passed, reality settled in. This was real. And then Jimmy Johnson spoke. On Wednesday's episode of the Pat McAfee show, Johnson didn't ease into the topic. He didn't hedge his words. He didn't offer polite disappointment or measured frustration. He went straight for the throat. He said there were 10 to 12 voters who were, in his words, ignorant, jealous assholes. Not critics. Not dissenters. Assholes. And he didn't flinch saying it. Johnson explained that after the vote, he personally spoke to several Hall of Fame voters. And every single one of them told him the same thing. They voted for Belichick. Every one. Which, according to Johnson, was complete bullshit. Because if everyone voted for him, then why didn't he get in? That's the question that lit the fuse. Jimmy Johnson isn't just some former coach with an opinion. He's a Hall of Famer himself. A man who built dynasties. A man who understands the weight of that gold jacket. And what infuriated him wasn't just that Belichick was excluded. It was the dishonesty surrounding it. The quiet, anonymous decision-making. The voters hiding behind silence while history took a hit. Johnson made it clear. Someone lied. Multiple people lied. And that betrayal of integrity was worse than the snub itself. Then he went deeper. He talked about Bill Belichick the person, not the caricature fans see on the sideline. He said no one knows the history of the NFL more than Bill. No one loves the league more than Bill. This wasn't a guy chasing fame or headlines. This was someone who lived and breathed football at its purest level. And yet, according to Johnson, a handful of voters decided that wasn't enough. That's when he dropped the line that made everyone listening sit up straight. He said this decision tarnishes everything in the Hall of Fame. Think about that. Not damages. Not questions. Tarnishes everything. The Hall of Fame is supposed to be sacred ground. It's supposed to be above grudges, above personal bias, above politics. It's meant to honor the undeniable impact someone had on the game. And if Bill Belichick doesn't meet that standard, then what exactly is the standard? Johnson addressed the elephant in the room next. Spygate. For years, critics have tried to reduce Belichick's legacy to controversy. Hidden cameras. Rule interpretations. Gray areas. But Johnson wasn't having it. He said they shouldn't be trying to use Spygate as an excuse. He called that argument absolutely ridiculous, and he's right. Because if Spygate disqualifies Belichick, then where does that line stop? The NFL's history is filled with scandals, shortcuts, and controversies involving Hall of Fame members. From performance enhancers to rule bending to outright cheating. The Hall of Fame has never been about moral perfection. It's been about impact, and Bill Belichick's impact is undeniable. Then came the most personal moment of all. Jimmy Johnson revealed that he had already chartered a jet. He fully expected to attend Belichick's Hall of Fame induction speech in August. He thought it was automatic. A formality. Something you don't even question. And now, he said, to hell with it. I'm not going. That wasn't just frustration. That was heartbreak. Imagine being so certain that history will unfold the right way that you make travel plans around it. Imagine believing that excellence will be recognized without debate, and then watching it all collapse because of anonymous votes and silent agendas. This wasn't just a bad day for Bill Belichick. This was a bad day for the Hall of Fame. And here's where the story gets even more uncomfortable, because this vote exposed something the NFL rarely wants to confront. The Hall of Fame isn't decided by some neutral algorithm. It's decided by people. People with opinions, biases, grudges, histories, and sometimes jealousy. Jimmy Johnson said that word for a reason, jealousy. Belichick didn't just win. He dominated. He made others look small. He set standards that many coaches chased and never reached. And when someone operates at that level for that long, resentment builds. Quietly, subtly, until it shows up in moments like this. Some voters may never admit it publicly. They don't have to. Their anonymity protects them. But the outcome tells the story. The scary part isn't that Belichick will eventually get in. Because he will. This isn't a permanent exile. The scary part is that the Hall of Fame just showed it's willing to let personal feelings override historical reality, even temporarily. That crack matters, because if it can happen to Bill Belichick, it can happen to anyone, and fans noticed. Within hours of Johnson's comments, social media exploded. Former players weighed in. Analysts questioned the process. Fans demanded transparency. The phrase Hall of Fame credibility started trending, and that's not something the league wants associated with its most prestigious institution. Belichick himself, true to form, said nothing. No statement. No outrage. No public disappointment. Just silence. The same stoic approach he's taken his entire career. But silence doesn't mean indifference. For a man who dedicated his life to the league, who sacrificed personal comfort, public image, and even relationships for football, this had to sting. Not because of ego, but because of principle. Belichick never coached for applause. He coached to win. And winning, historically, has always been enough. Until now, Jimmy Johnson's outburst wasn't about anger alone. It was about defending the soul of the game. About protecting the idea that greatness should be recognized without hesitation or condition. When he said this tarnishes everything, he wasn't exaggerating. He was warning. Because the Hall of Fame isn't just about plaques and speeches. It's about trust. Trust that when your career ends, your work will be judged fairly. Trust that the story of the NFL will be told honestly. And on Tuesday, that trust took a hit. The question now is simple but uncomfortable. Was this a message? A delay meant to send a signal? Or was it truly the result of a few voters deciding they knew better than history? Whatever the answer, the damage is done. Bill Belichick will eventually stand on that stage. He will give his speech. Jimmy Johnson will probably be there, whether he wants to admit it or not. And the applause will be thunderous, but this moment will always be part of the story. The year Bill Belichick wasn't a slam dunk. The year the Hall of Fame blinked. And the year Jimmy Johnson said out loud what many were thinking but were too afraid to say. So now it's on you. Did the Hall of Fame get this wrong, or does this reveal a deeper problem with how football decides who truly belongs among the immortals? Drop your take in the comments. Because this debate isn't going away anytime soon. And here's the part nobody wants to say out loud. The Hall of Fame didn't just delay Bill Belichick. It exposed itself. For decades, fans believed the Hall was immune to emotion. That it operated on facts, legacy, and impact. But this vote peeled back the curtain and showed something far more human underneath. Politics, resentment, and selective memory. Because when voters talk about standards, what they're really talking about is control. Bill Belichick represents something uncomfortable for a lot of people in the NFL media ecosystem. He didn't play the game the way they wanted. He didn't charm reporters. He didn't soften his edges. He didn't explain himself. He won, and he expected everyone else to deal with it. That rubbed people the wrong way for years. And when you give those same people a secret ballot, the temptation becomes real. Jimmy Johnson knew that the moment the votes came up short. That's why he wasn't just angry, he was disgusted. Because he understands how rare Belichick's career truly was. Not just the Super Bowls. Not just the rings. But the sustained excellence in a league built to destroy dynasties, free agency, salary caps, draft parity, coaching turnover. The NFL is designed to prevent what Belichick pulled off. And he did it anyway, twice, first with a defense-led dynasty. Then again by evolving with the league, embracing offense, analytics, situational football, and roster manipulation at a level no one else could match. That adaptability should be celebrated. Instead, it was punished, and here's where it gets even more uncomfortable for the voters. This wasn't a close call. This wasn't a debate between two borderline candidates. This was Bill Belichick. A man whose coaching tree alone reshaped the league. A man whose game plans are literally studied in coaching clinics around the world. You don't wait on that resume. You don't send a message. You don't make a point. You put him in, because when you don't, you tell every future coach, player, and executive something dangerous. That greatness isn't enough. That you also need to be liked. That's not what the Hall of Fame is supposed to be. And Jimmy Johnson felt that deeply. He wasn't defending Belichick just as a friend. He was defending the idea that football history matters more than grudges. That dominance deserves recognition, even if it made people uncomfortable along the way. The irony is brutal. Many of the same voters who allegedly withheld their support spent years praising Belichick's genius, breaking down his schemes, calling him the greatest of all time, using his success as the benchmark for everyone else. And then, when it mattered most, they hesitated. That hesitation speaks volumes. What makes this even worse is the timing. The NFL is in a moment where it desperately wants to preserve its legacy, protect its past, honor its icons. And yet, it stumbled on the most obvious choice imaginable. This wasn't a controversial player with off-field baggage. This wasn't a polarizing figure with a split resume. This was the architect of the most successful dynasty in modern football history. And somehow the room blinked. Fans are right to be angry. Not just Patriots fans. Football fans. Because moments like this chip away at the myth that the Hall of Fame is above the noise. That it's immune to ego and politics. Jimmy Johnson's Jet story hit so hard because it captured that loss of innocence. The assumption that excellence will be honored without question. The belief that some things are bigger than debate. That belief died a little this week. And the fallout isn't over. Because now every future Hall of Fame vote will be viewed through a different lens. Every snub will be questioned. Every delay will feel suspicious. The Hall didn't just create controversy. It created doubt. Belichick will eventually get his gold jacket. That much is inevitable. But the fact that it wasn't immediate will always be a footnote. A stain. A reminder that even the greatest can be dragged into unnecessary drama. And for Jimmy Johnson, that's unforgivable. His words weren't reckless. They were protective. Protective of the game. Protective of its history. Protective of the standard that once felt unbreakable. Because if Bill Belichick isn't a slam dunk, then what does slam dunk even mean anymore? That's the question voters now have to answer. Not with words, but with actions. And fans are watching. So once again, let's hear it from you. Did this Hall of Fame vote expose jealousy and politics? Or is there something about Belichick's legacy that voters still can't reconcile? Sound off in the comments. Hotspot NFL is listening.